This is Spinnaker3 here with another amazing Mojo showcase, and today I'm going to be taking Mojo on one of the toughest Act 6 lanes, which is the Vivified Masochism path in 6.4.5. Now, what makes this lane tough is, first of all, Vivified is such an annoying node. You notice Colossus has an incredible amount of power gain that's plus 200% power rate, and I have no way to power steal, power lock, or power control the opponent with most champs. So that's why this node already removes a ton of counters. And on top of it, they added masochism. So my goal is to not apply any debuffs onto the opponent. So you might be wondering why I picked Mojo for this fight. And the reason is that Mojo actually is able to power control the opponent. Not in your regular ways, like with your magics and your Psylocks and most of the notable options like that, but instead, Mojo power controls in the fact that he barely needs to touch the opponent to do a lot of damage to them, in a similar fashion to Quake, if you will. So right here, I'm able to get a ton of degenerations off on Colossus because he has a lot of buffs. And I got pushed to a special 3. And so I want to wait for my prompts to recycle so that I can use the special 3 to instantly complete the prompt. And I don't want him to be at any amount of power so that I can really keep him under wraps. And so right away, you'll see that it's a very safe fight with Mojo. And honestly, with Vivified alone, you just need to keep baiting specials. That's never the issue. The issue is being able to deal enough damage in the small amounts of hits that you're ever going to get. And that's why most champs don't ever get taken to this lane as a showcase, because you're not really getting much damage in with most champs. But that is not the case with Mojo. Mojo is able to turn all of Colossus's buffs, all of his attacks into these passive degenerations that tick the opponent down without any hits needed. And the best part is it's not done through debuffs. So your normal big damage dealers that have to do with debuffs, they're out of the question, right? You don't want to put debuffs on the opponent with masochism. I mean, you can get around it with certain champions, but it's just so much easier to not have to worry about that. So right there, I got instantly pushed to another special 3. Man, fighting Colossus is just really fun sometimes, because if his buffs just keep cycling, Mojo has so much power coming in from Mystic Dispersion. Absolute treat of a fight. And then as soon as you keep baiting special 2s, I'm already almost at another special 3 and Colossus drops. Now, these fights are going to be going a lot more quickly as time goes on because Mojo will start ramping up a lot easier. And so right here, I'm just going down the path. Now, before I hop into the next fight, I do want to thank Buddy Lee for the inspiration on this video. He made a poll a few weeks ago about some of the toughest lanes in Act 6, and I saw a comment on here that didn't get much attention about this lane, and I remembered using Mojo here and seeing that it worked pretty well, so I figured why not make a video on it. So I'll link Buddy Lee's channel and the same video where he actually did a very hard path in Act 6. And Buddy Lee, if you're watching, thanks for the inspiration. Anyway, here we have a buffed Civil Warrior. And honestly, Civil Warrior is pretty fun to fight with Mojo as well, because every time Civil Warrior launches a special 1, he's going to put a ton of armors on himself. I believe it's around 4 or 5. And so right here, I'm just going to keep trying to push Civil Warrior to a special 1 and let those armors drain into degenerations. Those are going to fuel my power up. You see, I'm already at a special 2 and I get pushed to a special 3. And I have my big fury, so the big damage is about to come. One thing to note is I do have the Nick Fury and Quake evade synergy just for a bit of a safety net. Not necessary at all, but I figured if I'm going to try for some cheeky intercepts because I don't want to parry, then it's good to have it. Here, Civil Warrior got pushed almost to a special 3, but luckily I was able to not push him, and the fight became a lot smoother because of that. So you notice the armors are just fueling me up to special 2s. Special 2s don't give him too much power, but they do a ton of damage. Just look at all the degenerations that are ticking Civil Warrior down. This is like the epitome of why I love using Mojo so much. And this kind of lane is perfectly suited for him because as long as I keep baiting out specials, I don't have to take any block damage. Look at how high my health is. I don't think I've taken really any kind of significant chunks of damage or hits, and the opponents have all just been dropping. Like this node combination is just so good for Mojo, even though it really negates the usage out of a lot of other champions. And Civil Warrior goes down. So This lane was designed pretty carefully, if you ask me. They tended to put a lot of bleed immune champs. I imagine that was to cancel out, say, like Archangel or some other high debuff damage dealers. So that's why I think this lane definitely gave a lot of people a difficult time. But Mojo is just able to do so well. You see that this is the first fight that I'm taking on this path that is not buff heavy. Civil Warrior and Colossus both had a lot of armor buffs to take advantage of, but Ghost Rider does not. So I'm going to be relying solely on the special 2s and 3s to place the degenerations on the opponent, and I'm going to be relying on my hater buffs to actually do a lot of significant damage. So right here, I'm trying to bait out the special 2. Ghost Rider isn't throwing, and I lose my ramp up, which is fine because I have a few persistent charges saved up, but it is a bit unfortunate. And so one thing to note, my Mojo is awakened, which means that I do store a number of persistent charges equal to the number of fights that I've won +1. And that means my number of subscribers can never drop below that amount. So 3 is what I'm at right now, which means that if I fail a prompt, the downside is actually limited and I will never fall below 3, which makes his ramp up just so much easier, so much more safe if I get a prompt that I don't like. And that's what makes this fight a little bit more enjoyable instead of having to ramp him up all the way if he was unawakened. Additionally, the Fury buff, since my Mojo is max Sig, does a lot of work as well. So another thing that's actually a fun little interaction is, wait, I don't know if you saw, I accidentally parried. And one thing that happens is the masochism triggers a regeneration buff. And that buff expires and turns into a degeneration. And the degeneration does a lot of work. So it actually means that even when I parry the opponent on accident and place a masochism debuff, or they heal from masochism, I still do a lot of damage to them through the degeneration that gets applied. So I'm not actually letting them heal that much from the masochism node, which means that Mojo is sort of countering it. And I say sort of because, like, obviously he's not heal blocking. He's still triggering the debuff, but he does turn the buff of regeneration that they get into more damage done. So it kind of balances out in the end. And you notice this fight does go a lot slower than the other fights. I'd say they were a lot flashier because this Ghost Rider is being very uncooperative with throwing his specials. But even then, it just goes to show that Mojo is still able to do so much damage even when he's not hitting the opponent. I mean, so many champs here, the reason they don't work is because they have to spend so long baiting out specials, and the amount of payoff that they get either messes with their rotation or it's just not enough to compensate the amount of time that's being wasted. But Mojo really doesn't care about that. Mojo is always going to be ticking the opponent down. He's always going to have that steady stream of damage. And you notice that Ghost Rider, even if it is a little slow, is dropping just as quickly. Like, Mojo is just such a good option for this path. And right there, Ghost Rider drops. So now it's onwards to the next fight. And the next fight on this path is Sunspot, another champion who you really don't want to be taking blocked hits against. And Sunspot, again, doesn't trigger that many buffs, so it is going to be a bit more difficult to get all of my damage in as quickly as I was able to against Civil Warrior. But you notice that my ramp up is going to happen instantaneously. I counter his special 1 with a heavy, and I'm automatically get my anti-life field Fury, which means the big damage gets to start. I mean, we're barely into the fight and he's already down 10%. I mean, I don't think I need to sing the praises of Mojo any more than I have already, but my God, it is just so fun to watch the opponent tick down constantly. Right there, I love how when the idle prompt comes, the opponent actually plays idle and makes it easy for me to complete the prompt. So I was able to get that one completed very quickly. And here I get stun an opponent, which is a bit annoying during masochism, but I kind of figured, like, look, he's getting so much damage done that I don't care if Sunspot tries to heal up. Like, there's no point for me to sacrifice clearing the prompt and completing it and getting the big damage to come. So right there, I launch my special 3. It does give him a lot of power, but it's still not enough to push him to a special 3. And the amount of damage that gets done because I have the anti-life field Fury and 5 degeneration effects on him is just so fun to watch. You notice this fight's already going so much better than the Ghost Rider fight because Sunspot is cooperating and throwing his special 2, unlike Ghost Rider where I had to spend so much more time baiting specials. And you notice that fight is already done, and that was what, about a minute and a half, maybe even less. Like, that is not a lot of time to be spending on these matchups. So up next we have Vulture. Once again, I think Kabam did try to craft this entire lane to have every champ have some form of immunities to certain types of damage. The past two have been Incinerate immune. Actually, the past three, if you count Ghost Rider, after he got Incinerate immunity added. So they were definitely trying to make this lane challenging for anyone who's trying to rely on damage through non-contact forms. But the one thing they couldn't block out here was Mojo. I mean, it's just so fun to watch. It's so fun to play. It feels like I'm honestly just chilling. Like the fight is completely under my control. I never have to send them too high in terms of power. I'm always taking them down. It's just super enjoyable. All I have to do is play a completely different game where I complete prompts, and I barely feel like I'm even playing Marvel Contest of Champions at that point. So right here, again, I get stun an opponent. So, I want to complete the prompt. I don't want to let it go to waste. So right there, I stun the opponent. And luckily, Masochism had triggered before, so I got the stun in. And I just really want to cycle special 2 loops. So right here, I need to bait out this special 2 from Vulture. Sometimes I don't know, Vulture Special 2 is a little weird in terms of how the starting animation is. It's pretty easy to get caught up into it. But if you're actually trying to avoid it actively, it's pretty easy to avoid it. So right here, he throws the Special 2. Once again, very cooperative AI. I'm a fan of that. And here, Punish the Special Attack is usually a tough prompt, but Vulture Special 1 is very easy to punish, but unfortunately, the prompt doesn't trigger. So whatever, it cycles to the next prompt. I get Knock a Champion down, very easy. And right here, I'm just trying to bait out the Special 2 again. And then once I do, it's time to eat a Special 3 for Vulture. So in right here, I want to have him go down in power so that my Special 3 doesn't push him too far. So one Special 2 bait should do the trick if Vulture cooperates. And, trying to get the AI to cooperate is in and of itself a pretty annoying struggle. But right here, I launch the Special 3. The Special 3 will complete the prompt, give me my anti-life field Fury, put 5 degenerations. You all have seen the drill. You all know the drill, and you know that it works. So right after this Special 3 animation, we're going to bait out a Special 2 from Vulture, and then we get to just go in. Lots of damage. I mean, the ticks, I don't know if you've noticed. There, I kind of timed the Special 1 evade pretty badly, but I don't know if you've noticed that the ticks on the degeneration are about like 2K to 3K per second, or per half second, which is very impressive. I mean, lots of damage is being done to the opponent without really having to care. And right here, I want to get my Special 2 off, but Vulture doesn't cooperate. Whatever, it's time to throw another Special 3. You guys will get to see this animation again. I think Mojo has one of the cleanest animations for a Special 3. It's always so funny to watch the opponent just get disliked into oblivion. And after this Special 3, there'll be more degenerations on Vulture. Once again, this fight is a bit slower because I have more Special 3s and a little less cooperative AI, but the result is still the same. Vulture goes down. Now, the next fight on the path is Red Skull, and once again, Kabam decided to put another problematic defender on the path. I mean, with Red Skull, the issue here is that he has so many armor up buffs, he becomes so tanky that if you're a champion who's relying on those very few hits to deal damage, you're not going to have a fun time here. But I am not relying on my basic hits to do a lot of damage. In fact, I am relying on my Special 2s and my degenerations to do all of that damage for me. So that's my goal in this fight. Now, you notice that in this fight, it's going to be a little bit different. I prefer baiting out Red Skull's Special 1 over his Special 2 because his Special 2 does a tad bit more block damage, and it's just a much longer animation altogether. But he's going to get pushed there eventually. It's Vivified. So right there, I just take the entire thing on block. I mean, I'm doing pretty well in the health department because, like I said, I really haven't had to take much block damage this entire lane. So I don't really mind it that much. And I know that the next fight is going to be an Invisible Woman. And if you've ever fought a member of the Fantastic Four, you should know that Invisible Woman and Mr. Reed are free willpower healing if they're ever on your path. So it's always nice to have them on the path. Right there, I take the first 2 hits of the beam on block, and then I dex the last one. I could full dex it, but I've come so far on this lane that I'd rather not go for anything too risky. So I'm just going to ensure that my timing is always on point with that. So right there, I stun to complete the prompt, enter into my special 2. And I mean, I don't need to say it again. The damage is just so fun to watch tick down. Red Skull, rinse, and repeat. So right there, Red Skull just holds block for me. I was like, thanks, man, because I did not want to have to complete that prompt because that's either going to be block damage or I have to hit against Red Skull's block, which if you've ever played Red Skull, you can't hit his block. Otherwise, you take a lot of damage and get power drained. It's not a fun time. So right here, I am able to get off the special 2 before getting pushed to a special 3. And even though Red Skull has 10 armor up buffs, those armor ups are not stopping my degeneration damage. I mean, you'll notice that my basic hits aren't even doing that much. With my anti-life field fury, they're doing 1,200 damage, which is very, very low. So it's nice to have passive degeneration damage that can't be avoided with armor up. So right here in the middle of his special 2 animation, Red Skull goes down, so I don't even have to try for any kind of dexing. And the next fight, another tough one, Invisible Woman. If you fought Invisible Woman, you know that she likes to go invisible at very random intervals. So I decided I'm not going to fight Invisible Woman with Mojo on this lane. I'll just use Apocalypse here. And just very first fight, I didn't even bring Cable along. So Apocalypse is that one genetic code. This fight is going awfully. I want to put the bleed so that she can't trigger invisible. And then I just get hit by a special 2. And I'm just not having a good time in this fight. I'm barely even getting down her force field. Like this fight is just going awfully. And then I throw my special 2 and I'm like, this should hopefully do some good damage. And it gets what? 9% down. And I'm like, I'm done. She's at a special 3. This fight is over. I'm just going to take it with Mojo. If it ends here, then the run ends here and I can still upload what I have. So the reason Invisible Woman is frustrating is because you want to parry her sometimes so that you can unpause her invisibility and then get an easy opening. You also, with some champs, want to put bleeds on her so that she can't just randomly trigger her invisibility. And Invisible Woman is a tank, okay? She has a lot of health. Her health is very misleading because she has that force field, and you have a very small window to actually do a good amount of damage. So what am I going to do to try and avoid this? Well, obviously throwing a special 2 against block isn't going to help too much. But my plan here is to get my degenerations on her because Mojo's degenerations are very strong. They take Invisible Woman's force field down without really me having to hit her and worry about her going invisible from my hits. So you notice right here, I'm using a few basic hits, but my goal is to get degenerations on her. So I'm just trying to bait out this special 2. Again, very uncooperative. And right now I get a degeneration on her. So I want the degeneration to trigger the invisibility so I don't accidentally get hit like I did right there. And now I can start getting the big damage. So I want to lock in my degenerations with a special 3 so that way there's no worry. She can't go invisible against my special 3. She cannot block my special 3 and her force field will always be down for the duration of the special 3. So my degenerations are going to land on Invisible Woman and I can guarantee that. So that's why I use the special 3 here. And you notice that her health is going down fast. And with all the willpower healing, I'm getting a net gain in my health than losing anything. So right here, she throws her special 2 against the wall, and I luckily got the dex there. I didn't know if it would happen or not, but her special 2 is not the hardest to dex. It's just sometimes can get a little shaky. So right here, I need to untrigger her invisibility, and I want to throw my specials now. So I get my special 2 ready. I dash and then intercept her after dexing and the degenerations stick. And every time I get my degenerations to stick, that's like a guaranteed 30 or 40% down. Don't have to worry about critical hits. Don't have to worry about resistances, nothing. It's guaranteed damage, and I know how much it's going to do, which means it is safe. So right here, my degenerations trigger the invisible, and the last hit of my special 2 does, so the degenerations stick. And like I said before, that's guaranteed damage that Invisible Woman is going to take, and hopefully we're going to get close to dropping her. And so right here, I know that she's almost down, so I throw my special 2 to finish her, and the beam ends her. So that was just such a clean Invisible Woman fight, and that probably was one of my favorite fights on the path. So this is where things start to go a little bit wrong. So this fight is against Black Widow, same nodes, and because she's Black Widow clairvoyant, she has a lot of nullify ability. So I'm going to speed up this fight because this fight was pretty bad in my opinion. I mean, I didn't fight the best on it, and it's just an awful matchup. My Furies keep getting nullified because Black Widow clairvoyant has that nullify ability. And if I push her to a special 2, which I'm trying to do to mitigate some of the bleed damage, which in hindsight, I could probably have taken. But every time I push her to a special 2, she pushes this buff immunity on me, which means I cannot get my anti-life field fury. And this cycle repeats for a really long time because I keep pushing her to a special 2. And after a bit, I mean, I'm able to get the damage done, but this fight it's sped up 2 times and it's already still so long. And here I push her to a special 3. And on yes, special 3 is going to do a lot of damage, and I managed to survive. So I'm out here with not a lot of health left, and she's still throwing these special ones, which even they're starting to overpower my willpower healing. So I start to realize that special threes might be the safest way to take her down. So I should not, that's the only way I can get my fury up and get the degenerations off without her auto nullifying me. Because right now she's doing a lot of auto nullification, which is just getting so frustrating to deal with. And the fight is just going so much slower. It's just exchanging back and forth. I'm not really getting too many degenerations off. And so here I get my special 3, and my goal is to just complete my prompt right away. There I get clipped by a special 1. It's not going too well for me. So right here, I need to bait out a special 1 and then launch my special 3. So right there, I get her to throw her special 1, and then I now have my anti-life field fury. So I'm now trying to milk it for as much as I can. Here I get a stun prompt, and she's so close to being dead. So I think that this is going to kill. And so I drop the special 3, and luckily the degenerations finish her off. So that was a pretty bad matchup, a pretty bad fight on my part, but Mojo still got through it, which I think is impressive in its own right. And by this time, I was just kind of getting done with this lane. I think I've shown that Mojo is capable of handling so many fights on it. I mean, he did every single fight up until now. So I think that anyone who actually has a Mojo and is willing to take him here, go for it. You will be glad that you did. But here I was really low on health. I didn't want to heal up because my goal was to do this item list. I wanted to have that ability. So this fight is just off to a pretty rough start just from the start, just because I'm pretty low on health. And so I'm trying to get the idle prompt, but she's in the middle of her special 1 animation. So I get it right now. And I get a medium intercept because I'm trying to bait out her special 1 so I don't have to take too much block damage. And right here, she keeps playing aggressive. She's not throwing her special. I'm triggering the masochism, which is frustrating. I dex her special 1 against the wall. I hope that she doesn't go for a heavy, and she does. And I now go for a special 3 just to get out of the corner. This was where the run ended because, as you could see, she was at a bar of power. The special 3 is going to give her a special 3. And with 17% health left, I'm not going to be able to tank it like I did to Black Widow. So right now I'm just hitting against block to let the degenerations do as much work as I possibly can. Here she launches her special 3. And that means the fight is over, but I really wanted to make this video to show just how useful Mojo is at power control. And even though he doesn't have any power control mechanics, he can still do a dang good job in completing this incredibly difficult lane in Act 6. So if you enjoyed this video, please give me a like, subscribe, and comment on what you want to see Mojo take next, and I will catch you later.